Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa and Sam Works, if we can find them, here on KCAA, NBC News, CNBC News, and NBC Sports Radio Station, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, Audible, Amazon Music, Tiki Live, Rumble, Podchaser, JioSaavn, Spreaker, and more. I am Dr. Marissa, your hashtag positively opinionated host, and it is Thursday, so it is time for Straight Talk Thursday with my co-host, Mr. Works. Oh, we're not going by Sam anymore?
That's just the title that it gave me. So let's give a round of applause.
We have a little bit of an echo, so something has to be turned down somewhere. I've got mine down all the way, so. But I'm so delighted that everyone is here. I see the hearts. I see the eyeballs rolling in. I see that we are all ready to talk about labels today. I let Sam pick his topics, and he comes up with some good ones. So that is what we're doing today. If you are driving, do not do this. If you're on the AM or FM channel, but if you are not, please go to LinkedIn or Facebook. My Facebook or my YouTube is the easiest way. Dr. Marissa Pay everywhere. Doc Balance on Instagram. If I remember, we'll do a little live there. But you can contact and interact in the comment section. So that's why we want to stream live with us. And there's still a little bit of an echo. I wonder if I hang up. I hang up and, it works.
All right.
We figured it out. Yabba dabba doo. So you'll just talk to me and tell me what I need to do instead of on the phone and chatting with me. I am so happy that we continue to have this wonderful repartee of I'm not going to say young versus old, because I will never be old. I am hashtag ageless. I'm sticking to it no matter what. And I'll never retire. And I don't know how much money I'll put on this, but I think I may have more energy than Mr. Works, but we'll see. for someone who is a multiple of his age, but we're not going there. All right, let's start as we usually do with our gratitudes. Having breakfast with Sam and I in the morning, taking a bite of our gratitude sandwich. 8 specific things that you are grateful for to strengthen your muscle to act on your own behalf so you have a good day. So, Sam, Mr. Works, what are you grateful for?
Something that I'm grateful for.
Oops, sorry. Ain't no stopping us now. There we go. Go ahead. What are you grateful for?
I actually talked about this yesterday, but I'm grateful for growing up sharing one room with my 2 older brothers.
Oh, gave you something to. You were never alone.
Never alone.
Never alone.
And the bond was there for sure. So we have a strong bond, me and my family and I.
That's wonderful. And I am grateful for family of bio and family of choice. So if you're not stuck with any one family, you can expand your family. Some of you know I have a bonus mom and dad who love me unconditionally, and sisters from that, as well as my bio family, who I am with right now in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. So I get to do that. And that was an interesting look on the camera, Sam, when you did that. It looked like you were moving an arm of something. Anyways, so what are you grateful for? We're on number 3.
I am also grateful for electricity. I don't know what I'll do without it.
I'm grateful for technology that allows me to live stream or love stream from Toronto.
Even though it causes you a little bit of stress, doesn't it?
What are you talking about? I was riding him this morning. I'm like, where's your laptop?
Yeah. And the emails, they came in pretty slow, so I was like, oh no.
I know, I already sent it to you. But the nice thing is, I may be quick, but I'm also quick to let it go. So I don't hold grudges, except for some people for like 50 years. But anyway, no, I'm just kidding. I think we'll talk about that later. Go ahead.
Okay. I am also grateful for rain. But you know what? Here's the thing. I got to put this on pause. It hasn't rained in California in such a long time that when it did, it made the air smell nasty because it brought up all the dried up like stuff from the ground. It was like a wet dog. Yeah, it was nasty.
That sulfur smell. Well, I'm not there to share that loveliness with you. I'm sorry, not sorry. What are you saying? But it never rains in Southern California. That's a way old song. So it's a hobby of mine. I didn't grow up with it. Don't yawn on camera. What's up? Were you up late last night?
I'm not.
Don't answer that. Don't answer that.
Okay.
I want you to take this show seriously and be like, bright, bushy-tailed with your laptop. Now I sound like your mother. I'm sure your mother doesn't even do that. But anyways, let's see. Are we on the last gratitude? I believe. I am grateful for my co-host Sam Works for loving me exactly the way I am. How's that?
Unconditionally, right?
Beautiful. And now, bottom of the bun. Who likes to be on the bottom? Not going there. Bottom of the bun is you started it. Bottom of the bun is appreciation. So top of the bun is gratitude, what you're grateful for, specific. Thank you for the hearts and the thumbs up. And the bottom of the bun is appreciation of yourself. So a lot of us did not grow up appreciating ourselves because we were told to, keep it low down. Don't be full of yourself. Don't, think you're all whatever. And as a result, we look to other people for that approval. And the number one thing I hear in businesses when I go in as an organizational psychologist is there's not enough appreciation in the workplace. And one of the things that I do in coaching is you got to be the first one to approve of yourself, because if you can't approve of yourself first, how the fork do you expect other people to approve of you? So that's why we do the bottom of the bun. So I appreciate that I am 88% easygoing.
Well, I appreciate myself that I have a decent personality and I'm able to, communicate with multiple different types of people.
That's true. I appreciate that I am good with 88% of the people around me. And I appreciate that I keep score very well.
I appreciate that I can, for the most part, deal under pressure.
I appreciate that I love life.
There you go. That's a good one. And then I appreciate that I take opportunity when it comes my way.
And I think this is 7 and 8. I appreciate that I I see the best in people most of the time.
There's a lot of 88% of the times going around right now.
That's my drill, right? Can't be
Yes.
100%. 88% is good enough. Double good fortune.
Right.
You get the last one.
The last one. I appreciate that I have a sense of humor.
And
Because
that you do.
that's needed. That's needed.
It is. And not that I'm keeping score. It is 1-1 now to the applause button.
There you go.
Thank you for having breakfast with Sam and I, where we just fuel you up with the ways in which you can start your day in the most positive way. All right. On to the topics of the day. Dun, 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 dun. We are talking about labels, and it was so funny because every week I text him and say, so what are we talking about? Because I let him choose it, and it was so funny. He goes, titles, labels, what they are and what they mean, and where do we stand? And I said, like, title of babe? And he's like, no, LOL, hold on. So pansexual, polysexual, demisexual, and the definition of player, etc. So this is going to be interesting because I purposely did not look them up because I have no clue. And the worst part is I'm sure my daughters have already gone to school with this on me, but I have, as I am ageless, as I continue to be ageless, short-term memory is not my strong suit. So I get to be re-educated by Sam today on these terms. So let's start with, which one do you want to start with?
Well, I think, let me take control on this one real quick, because I think the real question is, like, why does it matter, right? Why does it matter we have these labels and these titles and all this stuff? And sexuality has to do with the way you identify and how and if you experience sexual and romantic attraction and your interest in it, preferences around sexual and romantic relationships and behavior, right? So it's important to understand one another, especially if you are in the dating field, right? And it's not just the physical attraction, but also the psychological and emotional attraction, right?
Mhm.
And nowadays, everyone wants to put labels on everything. So there's a whole list, A through Z, of different types of sexuality. And I would say this past year, I've gotten to know a couple different sexualities like pansexual, polysexual, and demisexual, which I think that's where I start to define myself, demisexual, which is through a personal experience. So it's kind of interesting. But let's go with pansexual, right?
No. You just identified as demisexual. So I want to know before you move off that topic, because I have no idea what that is. Demisexual is what? You do a demi-plie when you have sex? Or
No. So demisexual describes people who experience sexual attraction only under specific circumstances, such as after building a romantic or emotional relationship with the person. So,
that explains why you can't see yourself or rarely have one night stands.
exactly.
So in order to be attracted to someone, you have to have an emotional connection, and that is the definition of demisexual.
Exactly. And you know what? I thought I was going kind of crazy because I went to my doctor, and this might be embarrassing. I can't believe I'm saying this on the air, but I was like, hey, doc, I think I might have like ED, right? And he was like, no, that's all psychological. He's like, you can't be having one night stands because that's not how it works. Like, your body has to accept the other person, right? And I was like, okay. So if we backtrack, I had a personal experience where it wasn't really a one night stand. Me and this girl, like, we've been friends for a while. We've been back and forth, but there was this one particular night where she wanted to, have some fun.
Uh-huh.
And during it, like, we didn't go all the way, but she was freaking out, like she was hyperventilating, and I didn't know how to take it at first. But I was like, oh, she must be really excited, And then she had in the middle of it, she freaked out and she was like, can we stop? Like, she was freaking out, and I was like, yeah, of course. Like, would it make you feel comfortable if we like put on our clothes, blah blah blah? She's like, yeah. I was like, okay. And we sat down and she was talking to me and she's like, do you know what demisexual is? I was like, no. To me, I thought it was all BS. And she was like, look, as bad as I want it with you, like, my body just doesn't want to accept it because I don't have like this emotional connection with you. Even though we're friends, like, it's her body that's telling her no, right? I thought it was total BS. I was like, okay,
So
But
at the time you thought it was BS when she told you that?
yes.
Okay.
Because
And
it was brand new to me. But then, like, I started to think back at it, and all my one night stands that failed was simply because I didn't have that emotional connection with the other person.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I learned something new for sure, as I always do on this show. So I might be in that. Well, I'm definitely that, because I shared a couple of weeks ago, right, that I just don't understand the appeal or the mechanism or the machinations of one night stands. Like, I just can't understand how someone could do that and feel good about it. So obviously I'm demisexual, but I have to stop projecting that onto others who are not that. And if they have that as their preference, I know that that's against the religious, moral, whatever, but I have to respect if that's, if, what do you call someone who is not demisexual? Like, is like totally can only do one night stands? Is there is a term for that?
You know what? That's a good question, but I would say probably a breeder, on my own term.
Well, I was gonna say a D-wad, but
Okay,
that's
that's
a little
true.
bit of judgment on there. It's probably not a good way to go, but okay, good. Demisexual. Let's go to pansexual. Pansexual is got to do with Peter Pan. Yes, no,
No.
Oh, okay.
Pansexual has to do with someone who's not attracted not by male or female, but by personality.
Okay.
Which is confusing to me. However, I had an experience like that. I was at a bar, and a guy came up to me and we're talking, and I was like, he seemed pretty comfortable and open. And I was like, oh, are you gay? Blah blah blah. He's like, no, I'm pansexual. I was like, what does that mean? He's like, I'm attracted to personality, not gender. So I don't know how to take that per se, but each to their own. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I it's rare that yeah, I know this is going to be caught on tape here. I don't have a comeback. No pun intended. I think that that's an interesting concept. I will say that. I think that I wonder how that intersects with bisexual, because that is both genders. I think that I understand it in the sense that, sometimes you meet people and you really click with them, and it's usually by personality, right? You just have that feeling, you have a couple of words and not enough to spend, enough time, but you just click. And I think that click is based on personality or chemistry, and it can be male or female, right? You have that connection with people. I have it with male and female. Now, I don't feel like going to bed with them after I click with them chemistry wise. So I guess I'm missing that middle road or path between the two.
Well, I think it also opens up relationships with people who are transgender, right?
Okay.
Because it's not only male or female. Now it's, hey, I was a man, now I'm a female. Are you okay with that? Are you able to do that, you know?
Right.
So
if you were pansexual, you could not overlook or rise above. That's the wrong words. You could incorporate. That's the word. You could incorporate the gender change so that you are still attracted to that person.
Yes. And, you know, I just put it all together as you were talking. I was like, wait, what about transgenders, you know, like that? So I think that helps with that type of community as well, which is pretty interesting, I think.
Well, it brings that statistic, although that 42% of statistics are made up on the spot. But according to psychological studies, when you meet a person, you notice three things right away: gender, race, and age. And so anybody who says they are I'm colorblind or I'm gender blind, that's bullshitaki, because you're human and immediately you notice those things. So you can't say that you're blind in noticing someone's gender, in noticing someone's ethnicity or race and their age. So how does that fit with not being attracted to personality regardless of gender? That's what came in my head.
Right.
So
and then
interesting. Oh, let me station ID, because I see some more eyeballs rolling in. If you've just come in and joined my regular show, Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa in the morning, you are correct. It's Thursday, and Thursday is our special series called Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and Sam Works, and where we have straight talk about just about everything, usually a little flirty, addressing things like sex and romance and intimacy. I know it is early in the morning, but hey, Thursday's almost Friday, getting you ready for the weekend.
There you go.
And we're talking about terms and labels today, and it's pansexual, demisexual, and what's the other one?
Polysexual.
Polysexual. We haven't done that one yet. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I hope to see some comments that you may have besides your nice thumbs up and your hearts on this show, Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and
Sam Works.
Here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Fully express in the dash between birth and death. What if, as a direct result of this horrible pandemic, we could rise out of the ashes with the new PPP, post-pandemic possibilities. The sooner you turn "it's impossible" to "I'm possible," the what ifs become possible too. Because you are loving, lovable, and loved, wrapped in a warm blanket of worthiness. But it may start with getting out of bed and making it what if starts with
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Pay.
And welcome back. You are tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa and
Sam Works.
here on KCAA, NBC News Radio, CNBC News Radio, and NBC Sports Station, AM 1050, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, and my YouTube channel, where I know I see some eyeballs, as well as on LinkedIn and Facebook. You can type in any questions or comments that you may be having. This special series called Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and Sam Works. And we are talking about terms, labels, and why they matter. And we've already covered demisexual, pansexual, and let's move to polysexual.
Polysexual.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's Polly wants a cracker, Pollyanna. I think I told you that story, right? I had a guest on and he said he was polyamorous. And I said, oh, yeah, that's my middle name. Because, I'm positive about things. And they're in the studio. People were going, I didn't realize Pollyanna was different than polyamorous. Anyways, take it away, Sam.
Yes, polysexual, a term that describes people with a sexual orientation that involves sexual or romantic attractions to people with varying genders. Polysexual orientations include bisexuality, pansexuality, omnisexuality, and queer, among others. So, if you really want to break it down,
what's omnisexual?
You know what? That is a good question. Let me see here. Let's see if we can look it up. Omnisexual is, what does it mean? People who identify as omnisexual are attracted to those of all gender identities and sexual orientations. This category.
Free for all? Sorry. No.
Yeah. No, basically, yeah.
I mean no disrespect. So let's talk about that for a second before we dive into the polysexual. Because I'm from an ageless generation where I have heard, I don't feel this, I don't believe this, but it is my job, they say, to, in fact, my nickname in corporations used to be the BS caller, because if, people were nodding yes, and I knew that inside they were saying, no way, we're not doing this, I would say, this is, let's be real here. People are not going to do this. So I call it putting the moose on the table, which is my Canadian version of elephant in the room, and I am in Canada right now. So there is a group of people who will say this is forking ridiculous. Why are there so many terms, so many labels? What is wrong with young people? Why are they suddenly, advocating for all these differences. We're all human. We're all, we all bleed. This is sin at the nth degree because, the man and woman, it should just be man. That's the way God says it in the Bible. And this is heresy and sin on the nth degree. It's why we're going to go to hell and blah, 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 blah. So I don't believe that. But I'm going to put the moose on the table and say that there is a significant number of people, many of them not in California, many of them who also believe that abortion is a sin. So there's a belief system, a BS that goes completely contrary to what we're talking about today. How do you address that?
You know what? It's very new to me. A lot of things, especially in the past couple of years, have been opening up, and I feel like, I would say it's valid in a sense, but people are starting to express themselves and just like putting labels on everything, and that's why we're going over this stuff, because now you can't just be like, oh, I'm straight. Now it's like, oh, well, I'm this and this, like it's a more defined way to identify yourself, especially in like relationships. And I think the more we get in depth with it, the more confusing it gets, right? Like it's no longer I like girl, I like guys. Now it's like, for example, sapiosexual, that was the next one I was going to bring up. Like you're attracted to intelligence, not to gender, not to physical looks, And so that's where it starts to get a little confusing. Like, why can't we just be simplistic and be like, I like you because I like you, not I only like you because you're smart, And that's where it starts to get a little confusing and like absurd,
Mm-hmm. And I hear you, and that's like another slice of the reaction towards these terms and labels. And we'll never know exactly why this is all of a sudden the thing. Whether it's people have felt like they had to conform. That's my theory, is that for the longest time, people were not valued for individuality. And you either conformed to the status and the majority of whatever it is, majority rules. And if you were different than that, you were made fun of, bullied, ostracized, set aside, discriminated against, have prejudice against. And this may be the pendulum that is maybe swinging a little far, but in order to get it, if it's over here and you want to get it to the balance middle, you can't just swing here because it'll balance back up here. You have to go all the way to the end, and then it'll come back to the middle. That's always been my change model. So it's not comfortable, right? But it is, I believe, the effort of this generation that has had enough of being told, you are either this or this. And it's an either or binary, black or white, good or bad, right, wrong. What category does it go into? And we as Americans are just so known for that kind of, it's Newtonian thinking. We hate gray. And there's so much gray in this whole topic: pansexual, asexual, demisexual, polysexual. All of these say, you know what? I want to be valued for my individuality. And it doesn't bother me so much that you get the term wrong, but the fact that you are interested enough in understanding the term, you may not agree with the term, but I value and want to hear what your difference is so that I can make a better connection with you. And that, my friends, is what I hope, one, this discussion is about, really, ultimately, the umbrella, because I do believe that, certainly as a person of color, as a woman, as an Asian, I know discrimination. I know my differences were not of value. My bio brother here, we were talking about growing up in Kitchener-Waterloo, Ontario. We were one of 5 diverse families. Everybody else was the largest German settlement outside of Germany in Canada. So one Black family, one Indian family, one a Chinese family, one Japanese family. I think that's it, 4. So we got it bad. I got the Chinese, Japanese, dirty knees. Look at these, and it was horrific. I still have, really bad, I lied for the longest time. People said, "Are you Hawaiian?" I would say yes, because that was a good difference, right? But I say this because that was about race and the differences, and we have come sort of a long way, still with this AAPI hate. Obviously, we're not out of the woods, but this pansexual, asexual, all of this is now addressing respect and inclusion for gender. That's what I think. Are you doing that just to be one up on me on applause? No, I'll take that as you agree and applaud. Thank you. I feel very strongly about this because I have 2 beautiful girls who school me in this. Mom, don't say that word. Mom, do not say, never say that. And I'm like, what? I didn't even know it was my nephew who is Ensign Kim on Star Trek, Garrett Wang, who told me when I was still using the word Oriental. And he's like, Auntie, don't use that word. We're not a rug. And even I'm like, what? But that's a traditional, I don't mean anything. Doesn't matter. But even if your intent is not to discriminate or insult, if your impact is to insult, then it doesn't really matter what your impact is, right? If you want to be effective with people, your intent has to match your impact. So I know that by saying the things that I am building a bridge to an entire gender care grouping or population that I want to learn this. And I'm not going to call it stupid. I'm not going to call it too much trouble. I'm not going to call it, oh my God, please, squeaky wheel gets the whatever. I'm just going to say, every generation or every group has desires of how to be included and treated with respect. And language is definitely a way to do that.
Wow. Good job, Doctor. I was going to give you another round of applause, but you know what? I just got to say that's pretty good. And I respect that deeply. So that's really cool. It's kind of interesting. I feel like where this all came about is like, let's say you're looking at someone and you find them attractive, but it's not by their looks. So they're like, why do I like this person so much? And then with sapiosexual, like you're attracted to their intelligence and you find that out. So now it's like, okay, now I got to come up with a name with that. Because you can be attracted to someone in like different ways, multiple ways, intelligence, by their looks physically, they're masculine, or even like, which is weird, like their scent, like you can just be attracted because the way they smell,
Is there a word for that one?
You know what? Not yet, but I'm sure we can make it up and it'll come a thing,
Okay.
Why not?
Sexual.
There you go. Something like that. But which ones that I find difficult is like the asexual, right? The ones that don't have any sexual attraction, who don't have sex or anything like that. Like the question is like, why? Like, do you think it's from like an impact through like experience that makes them asexual? Like what makes them not attracted to that?
I think it's, again, We'll never know exactly why. I think it is personal, but I do believe that what I know my reaction when someone comes to me for coaching and they say I'm asexual, and I say that okay, you may be feeling that way, but can we not define you as your label? You are so much more than any one term of who you are. You are one of a kind, wonderful, and you have many talents, gifts, and abilities, and you have many identities and preferences and all of that. So I always ask, does it make you feel good to have that label? And if you if you're honest, and then I also say, one of the most beautiful things about life and humankind is our ability to have romance and to have our toes curl during that moment of climax. One of the most beautiful things about being alive is that connection that you have with another individual, whether it's the same or different sex, whether it's because you're attracted to their personality or their scent or whatever it is. That particular, getting together with someone like that, you can't get that with your friends. You can't get that, well, friends with benefits, but that's another story. You can't get that with your friends. You can't get that with your parents. You can't get that with your kids. You can't get that with your coworkers unless it's an office romance. You can't get that in general in most of your relationships in life that you have as a human being. That one special kind of attractive relationship, the sexual relationship, if you cut that out of your life and say, not for me, not feeling it, never feeling it, I would say you're robbing yourself of one of the most beautiful gifts of being human in this body. Now, because of the con job that many strict religions have on our minds and how we think about sex, and how porn has sort of taken all the beauty out of sex and made it dirty, and all of these different kinds of negative connotations that have come out of this thing called the G-spot or orgasm, or the words that I can't say or I'll get a $20,000 fine on this NBC News Radio channel, which I will not say. Joe, don't worry, you don't have to dump this. But I absolutely know that if you purposefully cut it out of your life, then it's not going to make you feel good. It just, there is some healing when I talk to people who say they're asexual. Now, you do remember that the name of my show is Take My Advice. I'm not using it because you all know I've been pretty honest. I haven't had a sexual relationship in 5 years, 4 months, 3 weeks, 2 days, 1 hour, but who's counting? So I absolutely, I'll say this because I do know that. And I am, ever since we started the series, I am now, and losing the 27 pounds. I feel better about my body, although it's now 25 pounds because I've been having butter tarts, my favorite things in Canada. Thank God they don't sell them in California. I haven't found them, but so I'm going to have to get back, and my back's been hurt. So that's my excuse. But I'm so grateful that I am practicing now, becoming more ready, and knowing that I am not asexual. I don't believe that asexual is a state. I believe it's a choice. And most people who say they're asexual are still trying to protect themselves from either getting their heart broken or bad, being betrayed. And they think that that's going to happen if they open themselves up and be vulnerable to an intimate relationship. And I'll be the first to admit I was one of those. So if you're listening and you say, no, I'm just asexual, I just absolutely, don't have any desire, top bottom, I would just ask you to be open to the possibility that this is just the chapter in your book of romance called asexual. It just doesn't have to be like that, because you know, that physical attraction and all that follows. Yes, it can be like the ABC Wild World of Sports, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. So I'll be the first to admit it ain't all roses, but it is worth having that feeling. Just enjoy it. I tell my kids now all the time, just have fun.
Wow. You tell your kids that?
Yeah, I do. I know it's
Wow.
crazy. It's crazy because I grew up with such opposite, you know, shackles that it
Mhm.
has completely screwed up my whole ability to have an O, you know, to have that when Harry meets Sally moment. So it's you know, it's a work in progress.
Well, good for you, Dr. Marissa. You are definitely being the parent in this generation that that needs to be happening, because a lot of parents are stuck in the older, you know, values and the older ways, and it's kind of hard to understand
How
if they're
hard?
not even trying to acknowledge.
How hard?
You tell me. No, just kidding. So
I don't
like,
know yet. We haven't made the date in the bar yet. We're gonna have to go bar hopping just to choose the site of the meeting.
Right. And you know what? We can start like picking and choosing people and seeing like, oh, they're probably demisexual. They're probably, you know, things like that.
Oh yeah, but let's remember that we don't get to label other people. Labels
Right.
are, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. Labels are self-descriptive. So this is the part of stereotyping that goes beyond the labels of sexual, is we have a tendency to stereotype based on a label. So you are, so you must be, or you are, so you do this. Now, let's do another valuing diversity quick lesson before we end. And that is, there's a difference between stereotype and group difference. There is this push against actually having preferences. I am Chinese. I'm a Chinese woman. And when guys say to me when we're out for dinner, I've always been attracted to Asian women, my response is always, I will not cook for you. I will not clean for you. And the only way I'm going to walk on your back is with high heels on. And then I may or may not stay for the rest of the meal, because I hate being stereotyped that way. As you can tell, I do not follow the stereotype of submissive, quiet, nothing to say Asian woman that serves you. Now, I'm not condemning that. I am also saying that in past generations, if you are from an Asian culture, the women had that role. And there's nothing wrong with that if that is what you like and prefer and want. So when you are making labels, if you are seeing people in that label, I have people all the time say, why can't I call her a Black woman? Or why can't I call him a Hispanic male? Or why can't I call him a Black male? I say, you can't do that now, because when you say Black male, it doesn't just mean a male who has a Black ethnicity. Okay. It means Black with all of the horrible stereotyping, prejudice, discrimination with Black and Black male, same thing. So until we get to a place where Black male just means like the man who's wearing a black shirt and there's no energy and emotional discrimination behind it, then we can use those terms. So that's why I say, you know, let's acknowledge that there are group differences. As a woman and as a man, we are different. You know, we have different, they do studies. You're single focus orientation. I'm multiple focus orientation. I get to multitask very well. You suck at it, but you get focused at something and you finish it, whereas I get easily distracted. That's a group difference. Not all women are like that, but many women are like that. Not all men are like that, but many. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater when we're talking about differences. There are definite group differences, and it's okay. Just don't generalize across the whole group, and don't put a negative thing on it. I can say that as an Asian woman, I am, there are some things where, yeah, I love Asian food. Chinese food's my favorite. My dad used to call me a banana. I'm yellow on the outside, although I hate, well, I want to call us golden from now on. We do not have yellow skin. We have golden skin. So Chinese women are golden. So my dad used to call me a banana. He's in heaven now, but yellow on the outside and white on the inside, right? Because I'm very westernized. But in the very middle, there's yellow seeds, and that's my appetite. And I love Chinese food, my favorite. So does that mean all Chinese people like Chinese food? No, but many Chinese people like, does that mean any race likes a particular fruit more than the other? Of course they do. That's what they grew up with. What is wrong with saying that? But don't use that as the only thing you remember about people.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
Yeah. And it's great. It's great working with you because you are a white male and you are a young white male. And the fact that you are so open to to learning, is such a pleasure to work with you. Pleasure with a capital P, not the little p yet. But anyways, I just wanted to give you a little kudos for your receptivity when we do these kinds of things and we talk about. I'm trying to find that. Don't beat me to the applause.
I'm gonna let you hit
where is it? And my brother's the thing is not. I'm not used to these things. I'm used to the trackpad, so that's my excuse. But we're getting lots of thumbs up and hearts. I'm so glad. No comments, but I'm just, knowing that you're getting as much out of this as we are. I'm so appreciative that we have this platform to just, who knows what we're going to learn on this Straight Talk with Dr. Marissa and Sam Works. We have 3 minutes. Your final word?
I think this is probably one of the most important segments of Straight Talk because it is definitely informational and it's almost necessary, especially in this day and age where people are starting to be not like stubborn, but like what's the word? Like
obstinate.
Yeah, a little bit about who they are and what they are and like how they represent themselves. And you can't really go down the street and live the life it was 10 years ago. Like you have to be on your toes because there's a lot of sensitivity in the world and there's a lot more knowledge out there that needs to be taught, because if you don't know what you're doing and you don't know what you're saying, you can get in a lot of trouble, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's very important for not just you and I, but for everybody as a whole to understand each other, and the more you start to understand each other, the more we can all get along, the more we can start to accept each other, right? Yeah. And I think that's probably the most important thing here, because it's not just about you and me, it's about everyone who's listening, right?
That's why we're doing this. That's why we interact out loud for everybody. We're like an open. So, yes. And I would like to say one thing for people who are constantly triggered because people are not using your terms and constantly triggered that you're not being respected. I would ask you to just take a breath and sit back and look at people's intent. Are they not using your term or getting the wrong term because they are trying to piss you off? Or is their intent really to know and understand? And ignorance is not a horrible thing. Ignorance is only bad if there's no openness to learn. Justified ignorance is not good, is not useful. Okay. But ignorance with openness to learn is such a beautiful thing, which is what I was just complimenting you on. So if you're being triggered all the time, I'd like you to just take a chill pill and understand that, all this is this little dance of I want to get to connect with you better, and you want to get to connect with me better. But if you're constantly pissed off, you're not going to be connecting with anybody.
No,
so,
not at all.
How's that for my last word? And we're
Fantastic.
out of time. You're tuned in to Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa and
Sam Works.
I hope you have the best day ever. Tomorrow's fired up with Cynthia Kahi and Dr. Marissa. Now go have the best